Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Let's Debrief podcast. I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. It is 8:40 p.m. on Tuesday, September 3rd, and if you wait for this podcast to come out weekly, that is about 3 hours before this podcast goes live. I've had very good intentions of recording, earlier this week, but, ain't no time like being under pressure. And also, I feel like I haven't talked directly to you guys in a few weeks now. So, we had our comeback episode where it was just you and I, and then Cole came and joined us for the church scandals. And then it was me and Jenna, and then me and Joey. And so I feel like I haven't shared any life updates or also just talked to the podcast in a minute. And so I'm very excited. But because I recorded decently in advance with the last two episodes at least, I really was I'm gonna stay on top of it. I love being so far in advance. Yeah, no, I didn't do that whatsoever, clearly. But yeah, I am excited to record tonight, and don't let my lack of preparation or putting this off make you think that I'm not excited, because we're talking about hometown drama. But before that, I have, like I said, some life updates to give, and the biggest one being a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we went to our anatomy scan for Mr. Cohen, and wow, before I say anything else, what a crazy experience. And also, shout out to all of the ultrasound techs. Joey is actually one of them, and nothing about that makes sense to me whatsoever. She was at one point she was all right, so this will take an hour. We're just gonna make sure everything looks good. And I was like, okay, cool, sounds good. And then at one point she said, all right, yep, both kidneys we see there. And I just said, I'll take your word for it. I was like, I don't see nothing. But it was a very wild experience. But in that process, she was like, all right. And I was like, if anything is wrong, would you tell us now, or would we have to wait to talk to our doctor? And she was like, I would tell you. And I was like, okay. And we get to the end of the appointment. She said, yeah, so very happy. Everything looks good. One thing is that you are measuring at 21 weeks and 5 days. And I was like, oh. And she was like, it's not just one thing was, everything was measuring at that. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? Because I went in there thinking I was 20 weeks on the dot. And so I was like, okay, almost 2 weeks ahead. And she said, yeah, so we're going to go ahead and move your due date up to December 26th. And I said, are you now? Are you now? And so, yeah, I thought my original due date was January 6th. And now it is December 26th. And I have felt mixed emotions about it. I feel on one hand that I have lost 2 weeks, literally walked out of that appointment and went and updated my app, skipped a whole fruit. I think I have to see what I was at that point. Stand by. I think I went in that day being a banana or something. And then I walked out a papaya. It was something like that. Okay, wait. I'm a carrot right now. I was a papaya. I jumped to a papaya. Oh, wait. That's what it was. I was a sweet potato at 20 weeks. I completely skipped being a banana. And then I became a papaya. And now I'm a carrot. And then in 2 days, an ear of corn. Wow, that's actually crazy. So anyways, I definitely was like, oh, wow, okay. So I was like, I lost 2 weeks, and we go to Europe for 2 weeks. And then my baby shower is not that far away either. So he's basically going to be here tomorrow, is how everything started to feel. And I was going to say I spiraled. I definitely didn't spiral. I was just like, okay, shit just got real. Where going in, I was halfway there, I can't wait, oh my gosh. And now I was just okay. So I was it's time to start listening to some hypnobirthing and just kind of getting my ducks in a row. And so that's what I've been doing the last like few weeks. I need to like still write up like my ideal like birth plan and everything. But I'm trying to think if there's like anything else on there. But yeah, a lot of people recommended doing like the Christian hypnobirthing, like getting that app and like doing those like exercises, I guess, or like just meditations now, and then like playing them in labor, so then it's like easy to refer back to. And so Cole and I have been doing them together actually almost every night here and there, and I've really enjoyed it so far. It's very peaceful and it's a good way to like send you off into sleep, which also going into sleep, haven't gotten any. That's also a recent thing. I honestly just might start taking like a sleeping pill. Jenna had one that she recommended because there's just a lot of things happening. One of them being you pee 500 times in the middle of the night. And now it's gotten to the point where it's like, even if I just roll over, I'm like, but do I have to pee? Do I have to pee? And like, then my body is just like, well, you might. And I'm like, well, I might as well just get up. And then I get up, and sometimes when I come back, I'm like, I'm not even that tired anymore. So like last night it was definitely like the worst night, where I think we went to bed at like 11, and I swear I just saw every hour after that. It was just brutal. And then on top of it, I came downstairs, and our Breville has been doing this awesome thing recently where I don't even know what exactly is the issue, because I don't feel like I could do it any tighter. But if you don't put the portafilter on like extremely tight, then it will just slowly rotate off. And so it hasn't happened to me yet, but it had happened to Peter when he lived with us. Also, Peter moved out. I'll talk about the heartbreak I'm facing after that. But yeah, it had only happened to him, I think, maybe Cole once. And it had never happened to me. Granted, I don't make the coffee that often. And so, I was going to get milk from the fridge, and all of a sudden I heard, like, as I turned around, I watched it happen. And I'll post a photo on the Instagram story, but just coffee everywhere. And the sun like comes up like in through our kitchen window in the morning. And so I was getting blasted by the sun, and I just like closed my eyes and just let the sun hit me, because I was just like, why is this happening right now? So that was like a fun disaster to clean up. Also like not sleeping that much. And yeah, that's my complaint corner for this week. Pregnancy overall has just been, I'm very grateful to be pregnant. I'm very grateful for this experience. I would give it so far a 6 or 7 out of 10. Maybe like a 6.5. Where like 10 being like, 10 being like the best. And then like 1 being the worst. And I don't know. I don't want to complain like too much, because I feel like I've had it like relatively easy. But I said to Cole too, I don't know like if this could be like a thing. I was just like, I feel like I have so much time to just like think about all of the things that are annoying me, because I'm not chasing around another child. So I was like, I feel like future pregnancies would be easier because you're like distracted. So you all could be laughing at me and be like, no, 100% that's not true. It literally just makes your life worse. Or you're like, yeah, you might throw up, but then you're just like, all right, well, gotta go give someone breakfast. So, but yeah, I have just been very achy. My back like hurts 24/7, and I need to make my chiropractor visits a little bit more frequent, because especially in wedding season, just like anytime I come home after a wedding, my back is just destroyed. My lower back hurts so bad. And especially when I get up to go pee in the middle of the night after a wedding day, I'm just like hobbling. It hurts so bad. So anyways, I'm trying to get active. I was going to say stay active, but let's be real. I haven't done jack shit. So I went to yoga with a friend a couple weeks ago, and that was like really nice to like move around and everything. But yeah, it's just like so funny what you think that you'll end up doing. And then when you're in the situation, you're just like, yeah, no, working out sounds like the last thing I want to do. But Cole has been encouraging us to go on walks. And so we went on a walk tonight and I was like, all right, this feels good. So, and also, how about the weather we're having in Pittsburgh? We've turned a new leaf and it is cool. And I will say, I did not appreciate the summer and it was incredibly hot, hotter than I feel like other Pittsburgh summers have been in the past. And I was already pretty miserable in a mix. I mean, at the beginning of the summer, I was still throwing up. And then afterwards, after like feeling a little bit better, then I was just like feeling heavier. And so this summer wasn't my brightest shining summers, but you know, that's life. And I said to Cole, I was like, maybe like the next baby, like I'll avoid being pregnant in the summertime, which obviously like means you get pregnant in like August or September. But I was like, I just don't know if this is for me, especially if our planet's gonna keep getting hotter. But anyways, yeah, I think that wraps up Complaint Corner. Peter moved out. We are very happy for him. We had the perfect summer vibe here at the Zimmerman house. And honestly, it's only been a few days. And I like say to Cole, I'm like, sometimes I still feel like he'll just come walking through the door. But I'm like, it is like weird to like live with someone for 3 months and then just be like, oh, like you're not here anymore. So anyways, we got him moved out on last Thursday and he is happy. He is close to Whole Foods again, so that's all he needs in life. Okay, I was looking down my list of my life updates. Absolutely obsessed with cooking again, which like I definitely have been like already recently. But I have been really into it recently. If you don't follow Zimmerman Kitchen, what are you doing? It's where I post all of the fun things I'm cooking because I got afraid that people were getting annoyed by me on my regular Instagram account. And so I made a separate one, which brings my Instagram total to 4? No. My regular one, Zimmerman Kitchen, business one. Yeah, that's all that's all the ones I have. Podcast. Oh yeah, the Cole said the podcast. Dang it. So I got 4 Instagrams to cover all of my hobbies and professions and everything. And then also I run a church Instagram. So my Instagram like login pages are extensive. But yeah, so you should follow me over there because I've been really on my experimental like cooking grind recently. We had meatballs, homemade meatballs tonight, which I was very excited about because it called for breadcrumbs, and I actually made my own breadcrumbs, which is like we had some bread that was getting a little hard, and you just put it in a blender and toss that on a baking sheet, throw it in the oven for like 10 minutes. You got yourself some breadcrumbs. You can also do that with croutons and make croutons as well. So you know me from talking about like this was like months ago, but I did an episode called Homemaker Era where I was really into it and then like really into making a bunch of stuff from scratch and home cooking and stuff, and then got pregnant. Everything disgusted me and it's been a slow ease back into the cooking. But I don't know, I also just get excited by like saving money. And so I was telling Cole tonight, like I made homemade meatballs, and then we already had pasta on hand. And then I had a jar of tomato or of marinara sauce that was left over from last week. We made sourdough pizzas. And so, and I think I remember buying that. So the ground beef for the homemade meatballs was $3.99. Shout out to Aldi. Their organic beef is really good and it's always very cheap. If it's not on sale, it's like literally $5. Pound of ground beef, and then a bunch of different seasonings, my homemade breadcrumbs, some cheese, and then noodles we already had, and sauce we already had, but I'll include it in the price. And so to feed both of us, tonight's dinner came out to like $5.50, and we are eating it for lunch tomorrow. And I said that to Cole. I was like, that is like the best part about like making like meals at home is when, I mean, honestly, sorry, heavy breathing. Or even like when you go out, just when you can stretch a meal like twice is like the best feeling. And so I had made some homemade rolls that were like served as hot dog buns last night. But there's 2 more left, and that is going to be Cole's lunch tomorrow. I'm going to make him like a little meatball sub, and then I'll have the pasta. So when you can stretch something to be like 2 meals too, I was like, oh my gosh, this like meal almost came out, or like how far this meal is going almost comes out to $1 a person for like feeding both of us for 2 meals. And I'm like, that just makes me feel really great, because in this economy, you gotta do what you can. And so it just makes me really happy to cook from home and then have it stretch a little bit further. Also, I recently made a homemade like hamburger helper recipe. Did anybody else have hamburger helper as a kid? I was gonna say it was a staple in our family, maybe not a staple, but we definitely had it like every once in a while. Also, what was it? How much did it cost when I need to ask my mom? How much did it cost when we were kids? Because it is on the shelves right now for $1.50. Obviously, like you mix in the ground beef with it, but like, let me get some water real quick. Stand by. You mix in the ground beef with it, but the little mixture and everything is only $1.50. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like cheap now. Can't imagine what it was when I was a kid. But anyways, I had a like craving for it recently, and I was like, I wonder if there's a good recipe out there. If anyone's actually, I think I posted it on my kitchen account, so maybe I'll just like put it on a highlight or something. But if anyone's interested, you can go over there, or I can post it on the podcast too, or just send it to you. But if that's a nostalgic thing for you, like it was for me, this recipe definitely hit the spot, and it was delicious. And that was Peter's goodbye meal. As his going away meal. He came home like early from work the one day, and I was like, well, this is our final meal, and it will be hamburger helper. But yeah, I think that's all of the life updates. And currently we are, let's see, 14, oh my gosh, a week or 2 weeks out from Europe, which is crazy. I made like a decent sized Amazon order the other day of like outlets for the different like outlet chargers for the different places that we're going to, compression socks, because I'm just really nervous about blood clots on the plane, and I don't think there was anything else like travel related in there. But yeah, I can't believe it's so close. We are getting really excited, and also I'm just really excited that like, I mean, that we're going in general, but also like we have like a decent amount of time in every city. And so we're going to London, Paris, and Rome. But I just like that we have that much time, so I don't feel like, especially I'm just so slow moving these days. And the day that we leave to come back, I'm entering the 3rd trimester. So it's like getting down to, now that like obviously everything got moved up now, I shifted forward 2 weeks, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna be feeling it a little bit more. So I'm just excited to have like time to like mosey around and like not have there be like a ton of pressure to like go like every single day. And it's like, sure, like I'm sure we won't see like everything that like we want to, but I feel like that gives us a decent amount of time to do everything that we want in that amount of time. So I'm excited. And yeah, and then basically when we get back, our baby shower is later in October. We have a bunch of weddings, and so that is why I'm like, oh, it's like, it's happening. It's literally go time. Like when we get back from Europe, we have a wedding almost every weekend in October except the weekend of our baby shower, and then a lot of weddings also in November. And our last wedding for the year is November 30th, and now my due date's December 26th. And so I'm just like, I just gotta make it to the 30th. I just gotta make it. But yeah, that I believe is all of the life updates. Like I said, we are talking about your hometown scandals today. So I got a few submissions, and then I was also going to read, I'm going to have Cole. Actually, Cole, maybe you just kick it off.
Sure.
Yeah. He's just sitting over at the dining room table working, and he has a really good hometown story. And so I was like, you should just come on and share with everybody. I'm not going to try to share it for you. Also, we only have one mic right now, so goodbye.
Hello, debriefers. How do I sound? Am I good? Yeah. How much time are you giving me as well? Because I don't want to take up your whole deal.
No, you can take... Oh, well, they can't hear me. You can take however long as you need.
Okay.
We'll back up a little bit. You're a little loud.
Okay. Little fun fact is, for a while, this prompt was a conversation starter for me, like especially in college. I was like, what's your hometown murder story? Because so many people, especially from small towns, you have a murder story, and it was the talk of the town, and there's one story, and it's like you really hang your hat on it, and that is this story for me. So the year was 2008. I was in the 3rd grade, and fun little anecdote about this story is this whole story I'm about to tell you happened directly next door to one of my best friends, Graham, just name dropping him. It was just right next door to his house. So I don't know, how much detail should I go into on the backstory?
It's necessary.
Okay. Basically, there was this older man that lived in town. Also, trigger warning on a lot of things. I'll cut to the chase. It's a murder story, and there's a lot of graphic content, if you will. So skip forward maybe about 5-10 minutes. There's this older man, and he, to my knowledge, had assaulted this guy when he was a teenager. And he was an older gay man. He kind of had done this to a few people. And now this kid, I don't know any of the names, but he had grown up, and he's like probably 19, 20, something like that. And he'd been around town. And the older guy was like constantly trying to like seduce him still. And he was like trying to like hang out with him and whatever. It was like very obviously predatory and, gross. So one night, this guy, the kid, the younger guy, he was like I said, like 20. He was also in the military at this point, and he was like home for whatever. They like ran into each other at a bar or something, and the older guy was like, trying to seduce him, whatever. And at some point in the story, the younger guy was like, I'm going to get revenge on him. I don't know when, if that was immediate or if he decided that halfway along. But basically, long story short, he's like, all right, like I'll go back to your place with you. And they go to next door to Graham's house, which is the older guy's house. And they're like having drinks. They're like hanging out, whatever. And basically I don't know that.
Don't laugh.
What?
It's not funny.
No, I don't know how to approach the subject. So they're hanging out, they have drinks, whatever. The younger guy attacks him, and he like hits him over the head with like an ashtray or something like that. And then he's like beating the crap out of him. He like knocks him on the ground. He's like punching him, like all this stuff. He's hitting him in the head with stuff, like, getting all his revenge. Trigger warning again, this is graphic. I'm pretty sure he like breaks like a grandfather clock and like takes the chime and like sodomizes him. And like all this stuff. He's like torturing this guy literally. And he basically leaves him there to die, and then he lights his house on fire, or he starts a fire, and then it burns the whole house down, steals his car, and then drives to Texas, which he's going back to his military base camp or whatever. and eventually, they track him down. He gets caught or whatever. But the house fully burns to the ground, and with this guy in it, like on the verge of death. And
Wait,
as far as
he's not dead at this point?
I am not 100%. I don't remember a part of. He might be like he might have actually fully killed him, but I don't think he like shot him or anything.
Okay.
But this house burns to the ground and somehow doesn't burn any of the houses around it. And it must have been like on a weekend or something like that. I don't really remember. But I remember Graham coming to school like the next day or a couple days after it happened, and he was like, "Yeah, the house, like my neighbor's house, is gone. Like it just burnt down." And I mean, you've seen his house. They're not far away. Like it's like this is also on Main Street. So it's like they're like 20 feet apart.
And Graham's address is.
You could look it up. It's the one Ligonier murder story. Also, I'm like 80% sure all those details are correct. But yeah, this happened. We were in like 3rd grade. And Graham was like, "Oh, like my neighbor's house burned down." I was like, "Oh, that's crazy. Like, I don't know what happened." And then I found all the details out later because I think like my parents read the story at the time and they're obviously not going to tell me all that. But then like sometime in high school, I like found out everything. I was like, "Oh my God." And it's incredibly graphic. And that, to my knowledge, at least, is the murder story,
The guy died, right?
The old guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the old guy died. And then do you know how long the like younger guy went to jail for?
Probably life. I don't know.
Oh, really? We should look for a follow-up.
Yeah.
Because that's like, I mean, yeah, it's like obviously you shouldn't murder anybody, but it's like he had cause.
Yeah.
He was abused for so long, which is like so sad. But that's crazy. Yeah. You told me that story very early on, and like I was gonna say in us knowing each other, but I think we had gotten on that topic of like with our friends or something, and you, Jen, and Tan were like, "Oh, we got a good story."
Yeah. I started to start the episode off on such a down note, but I feel like I didn't give that story everything it deserved, but it's wild. But yeah, that is like when I think of hometown drama, juicy stories, that's number one for sure.
Mm. Well, do you want to stay on? Well, there was actually someone that wrote in something about Ligonier.
Oh. Cool.
Okay. It's actually pretty long. Oh my gosh. Okay. Ligonier brushes everything under the rug. It is an amazing town to live in, however, there was so much drama. The biggest situation currently, I'm not sure you know about from Cole, is the art teacher being brutally attacked and taken by ambulance from the school in 2023. There's a lot more. Any comment on that so far?
You can keep going.
Okay. But we've actually talked about this. No. Like he loved this art teacher, right? You're like, yeah, she's fine.
She is nice, yeah.
She had a traumatic brain injury, lost hearing, and received a metal plate in her jaw. So many more awful injuries. The district lost the footage of the attack, meaning that they definitely deleted it, and the student was back in school the next day, which is crazy. Which also I don't know if she's going to say this in like this thing or in her like story, but from like news articles and stuff, like she had warned like the the principal about this student beforehand. The whole town is livid because they just made it seem like she made the decision. They just made it seem like she made the decision to retire early due to the situation with the student. People knew she had received an injury, but not the extent that she has shared recently. The most recent board meeting, someone said after she spoke that at this time they don't see anything being wrong with how they handled things. This incident was not documented as an attack either. They made it seem like an accident. The student is a special needs individual who should be placed in a placement behavior in a placement where they can get help for their violent behavior. Students tend to keep sorry, it's like late and I'm being very bad at reading. Schools tend to try and keep as many special needs students instead of having them getting the help that they need so that they can get money for it. I teach in an elementary school, and we've had some students where in their special need program that do need placed in schools that they can get help for when they were violent. It's hard to know that the teacher at Ligonier got attacked and other students were put in harm's way on the very next day when the student came back. Needless to say, the whole town of Ligonier has been raging. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. You said this teacher, she is great. I had her literally since I was like in elementary school, and we saw this, like, I don't know, it's been happening, like it's happening right now, but we saw it a couple weeks ago, and my jaw was on the floor because this is insane. And yeah, like whoever wrote this in, like they said, the student like has special needs and is like very erratic, I guess. And the teacher was like, hey, like he needs special attention for this. Like he's going to hurt somebody. And they were just like ignoring it. And then she was the victim of it. And she was like, I was warning you this, here's all. And she dropped all the receipts of like, I sent this email on this date and said this, that like, you need to, do something about this. And they just like brushed it under the rug, which is insane. I don't remember, which Jen and Tan can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember anything this blatantly crazy happening like when we were in high school. Like there was like some like drama here and there, but like this is wild.
Yeah. Well, thanks for stopping by.
Of course.
Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
All right, back to work. All right, and that was Ligonier Drama with Ligonier's very own Cole Zimmerman. All right, let me readjust to get cozy for these other stories that we got. Also, well, actually, before we get into those other stories, I was going to share my own hometown drama, which it's also kind of a downer. But I actually called my parents before this, and I was like, do we have any, like, really good, like, Riverside, like, anecdotes or anything? And I went to a private high school, and so I was like, tell me something, like, juicy about, like, when, and also my parents went to the same high school. I was like, tell me something good about when you were in high school there. And my dad was like, oh, I think it, like, the principal's daughter, like, got pregnant in, like, high school or something. And I was like, sir, you are not one to talk. Your girlfriend also got pregnant in high school. But when I was in high school, literally, like, I think the most dramatic things that happened, were, I'm trying to think. Okay, well, there were two instances, I can think of, like, right, or there's one instance I can think of, like, off the bat. I was at, we were getting ready for a soccer game. Yes, I was on the soccer team, and it was literally because they needed people to fill the team. That is an actual true story, and it was the best shape I've ever been in, but I did not enjoy it. We were getting ready for a soccer game, and the team that was supposed to be, like, we were supposed to be playing was, like, really late, and we were like, what is the deal? All of a sudden, like, in a movie, the one of our maintenance guys comes around, like, on his golf cart, and he was like, you guys need to get inside right now. And we were like, okay. And we were like, why? And they were just like, just go to a classroom now. And we were like, okay. And, like, the way our school was laid out was, like, there was the soccer field was the very top of, like, the campus. And so we just had to, like, run across the field and, like, go down these steps, like, just to get into a classroom. And also at the same time, like, police cars, like, pulled up into our, like, parking lot. The upper lot was just called, like, the senior parking lot. And they, like, pulled up into the parking lot. We were like, whoa, like, what the heck is going on? And get into the classrooms, literally, like, nothing happens. But apparently there was a guy, I think like a guy and a girl, and, like, they got separated, that robbed a bank not far away from our school. And he was running on foot and was running towards our school. And I think that they shut down, like, our school, or, like, put our school on lockdown preemptively to, like, obviously protect us. And, like, school was out already, but, like, there were still kids on campus, like us being one of them. My friend at the time claimed that she thought she saw the guy in like our bus barn, I guess. But I don't know if they ever found him / where they found him, but it wasn't long that we all got released from the lockdown. So like that was something. Also, I have 2 good weed stories. One of them was a guy on the I'm not even gonna get too specific. A guy on a sports team smoked weed at a competition and got expelled for it. And I was gonna say that was pretty crazy. Like I was saying this to my dad, I was like, it's actually crazy like how, which like in high school and like 10 years ago, I'm like, okay, maybe, but like how intense like weed in high school was. Maybe it was just at my school. Maybe it was a very common thing at like other people's schools. But then I'll be very specific on this one because I think it's really funny. A family member of mine was expelled from this high school because he was selling weed to different sports teams around school. Like he was like the dealer for, which it's like, that was like 25 years ago. I'm like, that's so ahead of his time. Or like he was so ahead of the times. But anyways, that's the biggest scandals I feel like that happened. But yeah, this one was, that was just like school related. This one, I do remember this. It was, like I said, very sad, and I'll keep it short and sweet. But I remember this happening because my dad had like gotten to work this like one day. I think it was like a day in February. This like one day, and while he was at work, they put him into lockdown because this guy was on the loose. Essentially, the story goes, there was this ex-LAPD officer who got fired, and he, I think it was like he like got released for like disciplinary reasons. Like he, I don't know what he did exactly, but he got fired for insubordination, something like that. And basically goes on this like shooting spree, which is like, again, I guess trigger warning. Very awful. And basically just starts driving around Riverside or LA County, Orange County, and Riverside County, like shooting any cops that he sees like along the way. And so it's very sad. He kills the chief's daughter in LA. And then, like I said, after that, it seems like nothing is like super targeted. But and where my dad's work was, which was like, I was going to be specific, not like it really matters. It was like 1:30 in the morning, and he was driving past some cops that were just on duty, and he just like opened fired on their like cop car and killed one of the officers, and then like I think paralyzed the other officer. And yeah, and so he was just on there. It was like a huge hunt for him like after that, but they didn't, I guess, have the full picture until my dad got into work the next day. And so once he got in, he also like went on lockdown because they just had no idea where he was. They just knew that like where he was, who he was. They just knew that these officers were injured and dead. And they ended up finding him in a cabin in Big Bear, I'm pretty sure, which was like an hour and a half away from Riverside, depending on where you're coming from. And I'm pretty sure he like attempted to like burn the cabin down or something, but yeah, he got like arrested inside the cabin. So that was like my dad, when I called him, he was like, that's what he brought up. He was like, oh, do you remember that like one situation? And I was like, okay, that's a good scandal. But anyways, that's the hometown scandals anecdotes that I can add between myself and Cole. Let's get to yours. Let me take a big sip of water, and hopefully my dyslexia doesn't act up. The classic story of a high school teacher who can't let go of the thought of being the hot blonde. Did I say cheerleader?
The first time you did.
Oh my gosh. Remind me not to do this again this late.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. The classic story of a high school teacher who can't let go of the thought of being the hot blonde cheerleader, caught texting and hanging out with a student at her house while her husband was away, got taken out of the school in handcuffs last year. What is it? What is it about these dynamics? Also, while we're on the topic, why? Okay, I didn't even watch this show, but like looking back on it, why were we all like, I think, fighting or like rooting for them in the first place? But like, what was up with the Pretty Little Liars like dynamic of what it was, Ezra and Arya, I think? Like, we were like, oh my gosh, like they're just meant to be together. And it's like, I know he's her teacher, but like they're soulmates. I mean, maybe people weren't saying that, but I feel like all of my friend group was. They were just like, oh, I hope they don't get caught. Why? That's so weird. So weird. And I hate that it truly is a tale as old as time. Like, it's icky. Please don't. Okay, next one. My ex-best friend from like middle school to junior year of college has been with her current boyfriend for like 7 years. He just bought a house for them. Go him. Her boyfriend is best friends. Oh gosh. Her boyfriend is best friends with my cousin. They even have a podcast together. Cute. Long story short, she drunkenly tried to get with my cousin multiple times and he was uncomfortable. He had to shove her off, and when he confronted her about it later, when she was sober, she blamed it on her boyfriend for being bad at sex as a way to justify it. Her boyfriend still doesn't know, and they are still together. So does the whole town know, or is this like your little secret, like confession of like your little corner of town? But that's just sad. That's really, if she's just not happy, she just needs to break up with them. I mean, current boyfriend for 7 years, but they have a house together. I mean, but still, it doesn't justify any of her behavior. But I'm like, I see where it's not like, just leave. But this could be a hot take. Sometimes I think, you all might laugh at me for this. Sometimes I think that a mortgage is a bigger commitment than marriage. Like, people that will like get houses together before getting married because they're just like, well, we'll get married one day. I literally, like, obviously Cole and I are married and we will buy a house one day, but I'm like, doing that with someone before we are married sounds terrifying to me. Like, what would that process look like? It feels like it would be so much more paperwork to separate than a divorce would be. Cole and I always joke that we'll never get divorced because when we went to pick up our marriage license, how much was the marriage license? Do you remember?
Like 30.
Okay, it was like $30, but to get divorced, it was 10 or 5? $10. And we always just say, we could never spend the $10. We just can't splurge on it. And so, yeah, it just feels like the legal paperwork for separating a house would be so much worse than a divorce. You all might be laughing at me, but that's my opinion. Okay. 2 people back to back wrote in the same thing, and someone said 2 words, pizza bomber. And sorry, it was the same person. And she said, this is for the pizza bomber entry. And then she sent me an article. And so let's go read it. So a year ago, this article came out and saying 20 years later, Erie's pizza bomber case. Today marks 20 years since the events unfolded in the case that is infamously known as the pizza bomber case. 20 years ago, the unthinkable happened right here in Erie. A seemingly normal day, abruptly broken up by tragedy. What started off as a routine pizza delivery for Brian Wells turned out to be anything but routine. I feel like I've heard this before. The final delivery was a radio tower off of Peach Street. Oh yeah, I have heard this. There he was forced to wear a bomb collar and was given a set of instructions. Wells was to first rob the PNC bank before heading to McDonald's, where the next set of instructions were hidden. But Wells never got to the next set of instructions. Oh no. After robbing the PNC bank, Pennsylvania State Police quickly detained Wells. And what And that would be the spot where the bomb collar would detonate. Dang. Killing Brian Wells.
Netflix doc on
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard Cole. He said there's a Netflix doc on that. Erie would soon be thrust into national spotlight, and many people around the nation were wondering what was to come of being called the pizza bomber case. Wow. Yeah, I feel like I had heard bits and pieces of that before, but did they catch the guy? Does it say? It doesn't say if they caught him. That is so sad. Wow. Pizza bomber. That is a great hometown scandal. You and Cole are on similar levels in that way. But wow. All right. I never knew that pizza delivery was such a dangerous job. Okay. Next one. Not too much happened involving this, but it still kind of blows my mind. I live in a quiet neighborhood where everybody knows everybody. A lot of us are related. A lot of us are related. When their kids move out, they find a house in the same neighborhood and live there and raise their kids in. There's never really been too much trouble, and everyone is pretty cool with each other. One night, probably like 10-ish years ago, just one block up from me, this house caught on fire in the middle of the night. Is this Cole's story? People were living there, and none of them seemed to be home. No cars were there. There was nothing left in the house after the fire except for the bones. Wait, maybe it is. They could clearly tell it was arson because there was a weird ring on the front porch where they could tell that gas had spilled to light the place on fire. Nobody talked about it after the fact, and the owners of the house never even drove by to see their house or talk to any of the firefighters that were on the scene. Oh, interesting. Seems like some sort of weird insurance scam to me, but still shocking that everyone just swept it under the rug like that. What if Cole's story is revealing to you what actually happened? But maybe you didn't grow up in Ligonier. But that's crazy. Which also, I have a friend in her house recently had caught fire, and we were talking about like just the insurance of it all. And long story short, after talking to her, it would be a great scam. You would probably get caught, and it would all be worthless, and you'd probably get arrested or fined heavily. But that's crazy that no one ever talked about it. I wonder if just anything came from it in general. Like if they don't show their faces at all, will insurance like give it to them? I don't know. That's crazy. All right, one more sip for the last story. All right, let's do this. Thank you for hanging in with me. It is almost 10 o'clock. I am sleepy, and like I said, I did not sleep last night. All right. Okay, let me preface this with I'm not sure if my town still talks about it, but this was wild. A girl I went to high school with was very classic textbook attention seeking. Sorry, I got a notification and it threw me off. A classic textbook attention seeking behavior type. She would fake stuff constantly to get attention, like she was a high school girl, so some of it whatever, but takes the cake. This girl completely faked a stalker situation. This is not something to be messed with. She made up this elaborate story about a stalker texting and calling her, and mysteriously there were no phone calls to prove it. No phone records to prove it. She said he would show up in the night at her window. I know where she lived, and her room was on the second floor of a large farmhouse, and she would casually faint in the hallway, claiming she saw him in the school doors but there was no camera footage to prove that either. I don't even remember how the story dissipated, but it was wild, and some of us for a while absolutely believed her, including me, until my mom was like, no, that's absolutely ridiculous and so far-fetched. It went on for months. Wasn't there... First of all, high school and like middle school girls will say the wildest things. And it's terrifying getting in the mind of a high schooler. I feel like, I don't know who it was, if it was like a friend of a friend or something, but I feel like someone like I knew or I'd heard this story that they like completely made up that they had cancer. They're like, yeah, I have cancer. I only have a few months to live. And they're like, oh my gosh, no. They're like, yeah, it just, say your goodbyes. Like, it's just so hard. And it's like, no, you never had cancer. Like, that is crazy. But to say that you had a stalker is terrifying. That's like truly what my nightmares are made of just someone showing up in the middle of the night. I'm like, do not fake my worst nightmare. I literally, terrifying. But yeah, the mind of a high school girl is a terrifying thing and should be investigated thoroughly and done extensive research on. All right. I feel like this is semi like a shorter episode. And like I said, I'm recording this the night before and I cannot read stories super well anymore. So I think it might be time to sign off. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for submitting. And thank you, like I said, for the love on the last feud podcast. Specifically for Joey's, I was super happy with the feedback, and she also said that people reached out to her as well, and I just thought it was a great informative episode for a topic that's not usually like talked about a ton, and so was very happy to give her a moment to speak and share her story and just bring some of that to light and everything. But other than that, follow us on Instagram, same place, Let's Debrief Pod. Posting a lot of more story episodes for the months to come, and it is September 3rd, which you know what that means. October and spooky time are around the corner. Peter said he would come back and read spooky stories with us, so anyways, lots of those kinds of episodes coming up. And yeah, I think that's all I got. I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.